What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end and hear the full story and all the details in the case. For all the day one fam, welcome back. Y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let me give you a little disclaimer. This is a requested video. Everything in this case is public information. It hasn't made the trial yet, and all parties involved are innocent until proven otherwise. Let's get right into the story. When most people jump into the streets and choose to trap for a living, the goal usually is to find a block that's jamming, a product that's going to move, and the most important thing is a consistent plug that can keep up the supply and demand. Once you get a constant flow, it usually helps everybody eat if that's the real motive. But it all depends on circumstances and environments. I used to wonder how people like Big Meech allegedly went state to state to set up shop with only minor problems. But it's because first they got the money, power, and respect, and showed love, respecting another person's backyard and how they rock. But we are in a different time and age right now, where putting yourself out there as the connect can get you put in a blender. Say for instance, you go OT to a place you are not familiar with, pull up on the block, let it be known you got that work. Everything could start off as love because you are beneficial at the time, but you could be getting put in a trick bag whole time. The person you think you are building a business relationship with might cop a few times before they say, you know what, we don't even know yo. Let's line them up and take everything. Now you become a sheep amongst wolves. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing a man that came to Baltimore to set up shop, but it all went bad. According to sources, a 21-year-old man named Zion Fats Thompson back in 2022 had found the golden ticket in the trenches, somehow getting linked to a few people out in Cali to get grass back home to Baltimore. To figure out the whole operation, Zion would take a trip to the West Coast to see where everything was being grown at and to set up future plans for a shop back home in the city. After returning back from his trip, a man flew in from Cali with a suitcase full of grass to sell to Zion. Everything went smooth, the transaction went good, and everybody was happy with the newfound connections. A house in West Baltimore on 325 Faro Street had turned into a trap house after being vacant and squatters took over. The owner, a man from PG County, filed a request to remove the people and get it boarded up after someone OD'd. But little did anybody know, the vac would end up playing a part in a tragic incident. When a plug back in the West Coast hit Zion up to set up the next trip, this time they decided to send a 35-year-old man named Miguel Soto Diaz. He would touch down in the city on May 7th, 2022 to link up with the young man. The plan was to see if they could expand the operation in the city. But on the morning of May 8th, a FaceTime call was made from Baltimore to Cali from a burner phone, where allegedly Zion showed Miguel with duct tape over his mouth, hands and legs zip tied. Everyone seemed confused at first, thinking the business relationship was going good. But shortly after hanging up, they received a text message stating Poppy said send 200 pounds of grass and $50,000 so he can make it out of the city okay, and don't contact the police. If not, it's all over. They even received a picture of Miguel strapped to a chair. His peoples told Zion they was going to the feds to show them everything, but he called they bluff, stating back, y'all not even legal. And if you go to the feds, tell them y'all sell grass. But little did they know it wasn't a game. Later that day, firefighters were called to put out a blaze. They responded to a vacant house on 325 Faro Street. As they got the situation under control, they realized there was a gas can, shell casings, and a body in the house. No one knew what happened, and as an investigation started, detectives realized the house was vacant with no ID for the victim. That same day back in Cali, two of Miguel's associates reported the man missing. They told California police a man from Baltimore named Fats contacted a young lady on social media to grab some grass. They built a relationship to traffic the product. The ATF would step in, use IG photos and facial recognition to put a name to the person, 21-year-old Zion. The woman associate also gave agents Ring camera footage and images from when the young man visited the West to see the operation. After Miguel's people told the whole story, even from the FaceTime call, it was called a plot for a ransom. They alleged Zion was seen on footage buying a prepaid phone the same morning, letting it be known he already had the plan in motion. When Miguel landed, the young man contacted the people back in Cali from a new number, and which was later called the ransom phone. The young lady showed communication with Zion on May 7th to pick up Miguel from BWI Airport. With this information, ATF reached out to Baltimore City Police, who told them while investigating the crime, they couldn't identify the victim, but realized he had been shot and the house torched. Then they tied the whole thing together, the victim's name and alleged suspect. An $8,000 reward was put out for any information on Zion's whereabouts. Detectives linked the ransom phone to the young man, showing he was in the location at the time of the incident. Eventually, Zion would be picked up, charged with extortion, conspiracy to possess and distribute narcotics, and other charges as well. The case would go federal, but at this time, Zion hasn't been convicted, and he is innocent until proven otherwise. The neighborhood was in shock about the situation, as they stated a big percentage of homes on that block were vacant, and a lot of things took place because of easy access. The city was supposed to come and board up the property on May 16th, 2022, 8 days after the hit, but would never get that chance after getting a call that it would be on fire. Rest in peace to Miguel. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. When you play in the streets, you definitely got to know not only the players, but the game. Miguel and his peoples were bold. They probably thought they was helping somebody make money so things would go smooth. Because I wouldn't dare go to another state knowing I got weight to link up with nobody. You are asking to get finessed. In a perfect world, they could have been partners and made a lot of money off the grass. But unfortunately in our city, if you are an outsider, you are a target. It's not about the end game. It's a cruddy, I want it all now mindset. When you are amongst wolves, you got to know how to move. The Cali plugs were way too trusting. And in Baltimore, trust will get you hurt. And showing too much will get you got. Always move in silence, because wolves don't show their teeth until it's time to eat. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, this is a crazy situation. I remember when this first happened, the first thing I was thinking about, how they even get that comfortable to even have Miguel in Baltimore. You see what I'm saying? But when I did my research and I see how everything allegedly transpired, it seemed like Shorty hit them on social media, was able to figure out the whole operation because they was too friendly. He flew out, he seen how much they had, he seen everything allegedly, so he baited them in typical Baltimore fashion, got them comfortable, he rocked them to sleep. They came out the first time, they showed him some product, he copped that. But the second time, allegedly, he already had his mindset what he was gonna do. You feel me? And I don't understand how people move like that. You know, you gotta be careful when you go into these environments. In a perfect world, you can make money. But now people hungry, people moving a little different, man. But y'all already know, this is another episode of The Baltimore Way. Definitely leave it in the comments. Remember to be respectful. This your boy Tony 2 times. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. It's all love, fam. I'm out. What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of The Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to smash that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story. Subscribe if you're new to the fam. Tap that notification bell for future uploads. Let's get right into it. Having fallouts with friends or associates is a normal thing. We as people don't always see eye to eye. I was told if someone is playing you too close agrees with everything you say and do, you should watch them because it might be a hidden agenda. And when a fallout between friends comes to a point in one of their minds, the brotherhood is unfixable, some people take matters into their own hands, leaving their so-called friends gone and the family with no answers. And on this episode of The Baltimore Way, we will discuss a case involving a former BPD spokesperson, TJ Smith's little brother, that led to Deion Smith being gone. According to sources, Terrell Gibson and Deion were cool. The two men had built a friendship, and Terrell even hung out at Deion's apartment. So when the call came in to BPD on July 2nd, 2017, about a shooting at 1401 Argyle Avenue, a mystery would start. Allegedly, once police arrived, they found Deion suffering from a gunshot wound to the cheek. Due to the type of weapon was used, unfortunately, the young man was gone instantly. At the time, a motive was unclear, but as the news got back to Deion's older brother, former BPD spokesman TJ Smith, after hearing how his brother was found, the family wanted answers. During the investigation, police noticed surveillance cameras in the building, and while speaking to residents, they realized it was a few witnesses at the scene. Deion's pockets were turned inside out, and the apartment seemed to be searched through, so at first, it seemed like a robbery or somebody was looking for something. But a neighbor, we will call Richardson, came forth to tell police the day of the hit, he helped Deion move his belongings to another room in the second floor of the building, as the building was split into different sections, like rooms for rent. Later that day, Richardson stated something was left at Deion's other apartment. As he went to the new room, he allegedly saw a pool of dry blood on the floor, but he did not enter the room because the door was slightly open. He thought Deion maybe was at work. Richardson returned to his spot, but not long after, he heard a knock on the window. It was Deion's homie, Terrell Gibson. Richardson let Terrell in the building and stated he thought Deion might be hurt or worse, gone. At first, Terrell seemed concerned. Then he asked Richardson, does anybody else know? Before flipping out, telling Richardson to return to his apartment and mind his business. Richardson, then being scared, went to his mother's apartment in the building and told her he felt like Deion was gone. During his interview with police, the neighbor pointed out Terrell in a photo lineup, but stated he was only 25% sure it was the same person he talked to that day, but he only saw Terrell one time. But when surveillance video came out, it showed Richardson talking to Deion about 2:27 p.m. Then later that day, it showed Richardson talking to a man in the hallway thought to be Terrell. Then in the video, a man could be seen pacing back and forth, holding a bag in the building. Then later running out the building, allegedly putting a shotgun in his dip. Another neighbor in the building said he walked by Terrell and another individual in the hallway that day. And after looking at footage, seeing a man with a hat and white beat on, the man stated that was Terrell after he saw him pacing and running out the building. All fingers and evidence was pointing at Terrell, so BPD will put out a warrant for his arrest. But the question still remained, what was the reason for the hit? This is where the case gets tricky. Terrell's DNA was not found at the scene or on Deion's pockets. No weapon was ever found, and when BPD brought Terrell in for questioning, he denied having any reason to hurt Deion. But from neighbors' statements and surveillance, Terrell was still charged with the murder. As the case made it to trial, it still wasn't a motive. Prosecutors claimed the two men had a fallout behind something. Some thought it was drug related or Deion owed money. But Terrell's lawyers argued that neighbor Richardson was so scared that day of the hit that he admitted he was only 25% sure after pointing Terrell out in the lineup. And the surveillance was not solid evidence because Terrell and others always visit the building. But from the clothes the man in the video had on the day of the hit and neighbors who saw Terrell that day, eventually he was found guilty of the hit of his homie Deion. And Terrell Gibson was sentenced to 80 years in prison. Rest in peace to Deion. I send my prayers and condolences to the family. I'm gonna leave y'all to let me know what y'all think about this story and what the moral should be. Respond in the comments below and let me know, man. But yeah, man, it's a crazy story, you feel me? Rest in peace to Deion. It was a lot of unanswered questions in this case, you know. a lot of people felt like Terrell might have been innocent because it wasn't a lot of evidence. I mean, they had the surveillance footage of what they said looked like him, but people were saying it was grainy, you really couldn't see it. Then you had the neighbor's testimony, but you know, when they found Deion's body, it wasn't no fingerprints, it wasn't no shell casings, it wasn't nothing at the scene. So people was like, what actually happened? And then by him being the younger brother of a police spokesman, they just felt like it was a lot of attention on the case from day one, so the community was gonna speak up. They just felt like Terrell basically was set up for failure from the jump. He was gonna get convicted. But man, I don't know, man. You know, they say they was homies. You feel me? They say they was cool. It still ain't a motive. Terrell never came out and said he did it. He stuck to his story, saying he was innocent. He told the family at court that he hoped they find the right person, because he the wrong person and he shouldn't be getting that much time. But man, you feel me? This one of them cases where it's like, what happened, you know? Like, why? You know what I mean? The family got closure, I guess, by Terrell getting his sentence. But other than that, they don't know what happened. They don't know why. They don't know if it was a robbery. Wasn't nothing missing from the home, though. You feel me? That's the crazy thing about it. You know what I mean? But that's how it be, man. I don't know, man. I'm gonna leave y'all, like I said, let me know what y'all think about this one. Leave it in the comments. I'll make sure I check them out, chop it up with y'all, man. Be sure to like the video. If you made it to the end, I definitely appreciate you, man. I appreciate the love and support like always. Follow me on Instagram at _Tony2times. If you got any video ideas, you can email me at tony2times.biz@gmail.com. Love, fam. I'm out.
Fam, it's your girl Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and we are back with another episode of The Baltimore Way. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I invite you to join the 2 Times family. Tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to get notified of all uploads. Be sure to like this video if you're rocking with the content. Comment down below and share your thoughts. Of course, always keeping it respectful. Feel free to share this video. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. In this episode, we will be discussing the case of a young mother-to-be whose life was taken at the hands of her fiancé and the father of her unborn child, according to investigators. All right? Let's get right into it. On June 27, 2017, at 12:33 a.m., a resident of the apartment complex on the 3900 block of Liberty Heights Avenue in Northwest Baltimore called 911 and reported hearing multiple gunshots and a woman yelling. A Baltimore City police officer responded and canvassed the area, but the officer found no one discharging a firearm, so they left. At around 1:45 a.m. that same evening, the same officer returned to the apartment complex in response to another 911 call. The 911 caller reported that he was laying in his apartment when he heard a loud crash coming from his kitchen area. He went to check to see what the crash was, and he found a suspect laying on his kitchen floor covered in blood. A Baltimore police detective said, according to sources, the man was armed with a knife. The detective said when the 911 caller actually went to render aid to the mysterious man, the man turned on him, ambushed him, and made threats, and chased him outside. At which point, the caller was able to get away and call police. The 911 caller wasn't hurt, but nevertheless shook up, I'm sure. When the officers arrived, they saw a man sitting on the concrete steps of the building. Officers later identified the man as William Mason. Mr. Mason had multiple lacerations on his face and arms and was wearing a bloody sock. A crime scene technician arrived and recovered the man's bloody sock and sent a swab of it for DNA processing. Officers arrested Mr. Mason and took him to Sinai Hospital. According to medical records obtained by officials, Mr. Mason explained that he sustained his injuries after jumping through a window. At the time when police interviewed Mr. Mason, he did not provide any emergency contact or mention he had a girlfriend or fiance, and he didn't mention that anyone else besides himself could have been hurt. The records obtained by officials from the hospital indicated that Mr. Mason was released to Central Booking but ended up returning to the hospital for further medical treatment. Later that day, the resident who initially reported the shots fired left their apartment for work and noticed that the door was open to the basement apartment. The resident also observed what looked like blood leading from the apartment to the front door of the apartment complex. When the apartment complex resident returned home from work that evening, they made the same observation. Then, the resident's significant other called 911 and stated that there were shots fired coming from that apartment the night prior. They went on to tell the 911 dispatcher that the door to the basement apartment had been opened all day, and there was a blood trail outside of the apartment. Officers arrived at the basement apartment at approximately 8:45 that evening and found the blood trail and bloody footprints outside of the basement apartment. As they walked inside the apartment and towards the bedroom, they found the body of a woman on the floor, later identified as 23-year-old Kaya Lambert, clad only in her undergarments and covered with a blanket. She was pronounced not alive at the scene. Near Kaya Lambert's body, police recovered 2 bloody handguns and matching shell casings. The officers then noticed what appeared to be a foot or sock impression in the blood on the floor. The responding officers saw evidence of a struggle in the bedroom, including a bunch of broken glass, but no evidence of a struggle anywhere else in the apartment. Police learned that Kaya Lambert and Mr. Mason had been in a romantic relationship for about 2 years. According to sources, the couple jointly leased the basement apartment. Investigators also found out that the couple had just returned from a vacation in Miami. Police then obtained a search warrant for Mr. Mason's DNA and took his sample. According to reports, an autopsy of Kaya Lambert's body indicated that she was several weeks pregnant. The autopsy revealed she had sustained 4 shot wounds as well as multiple contusions and abrasions, including 26 sharp force injuries to the scalp, 8 cutting wounds to the upper back, 2 cutting wounds to the right arm, and multiple cuts to her hands. The medical examiner ruled her passing a homicide. As investigators analyzed the evidence, no fingerprints were found on the 2 weapons recovered from the scenes. However, the lab analysis did reveal Kaya Lambert's DNA on both firearms and Mr. Mason's DNA on one of them. Swabs taken from the floor of the basement apartment and Mr. Mason's bloody sock contained DNA from both Mr. Mason and Kaya Lambert. William Mason was subsequently charged with the slaying of his girlfriend Kaya Lambert as well as assault. No motive to the crime was made clear. There was no history of domestic disputes between the couple. Mr. Mason was considered a law-abiding citizen before the arrest. He had no criminal record. William Mason went to trial in October 2018. With a slew of circumstantial evidence stacked up against him, including DNA and footprints, a Baltimore City grand jury found Mr. Mason guilty. In June 2019, he was sentenced to life plus 20 years, with the first 5 years to be served without parole. Mr. Mason later tried to appeal his conviction because of comments made about his demeanor in court by the state's attorney during closing arguments. However, his appeal was denied. The appeal courts decided that the state's comment would not have swayed the jury's decision because of the amount of circumstantial evidence presented in the case, and that the state assured jurors to focus on the evidence since that is all they really had to prove their case. There was absolutely no clear motive as to why Mr. Mason would commit such a heinous crime against the woman he claimed to love. As I mentioned before, there was no record of past disputes between the couple or anything. They had reportedly just came back from vacation in Miami. So what went wrong? Were they fighting? Did he snap? And why did he snap if he did? So many unanswered questions in this situation. It's just crazy how the events of that day played out, and then to not know why is even more heart-wrenching. My deepest and sincerest condolences to Kaya Lambert's family and loved ones. I pray that they are able to find comfort and peace in her memories. I hope that they were able to have some closure. She was so young and absolutely beautiful. I'm sure she would have been a great mom. May Kaya Lambert and her unborn rest in peace. All right, fam, that's it for this video. Please tell me what you think about this situation in the comments below. I would love to hear your sentiments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.
What is going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 Times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For all the day one fam, welcome back. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. Y'all already know it's all love. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. We all know being a parent is hard work. From the time you bring a child in this world, everything changes. You have to think different, move different, because now you are not just responsible for yourself, but another person as well. It's a beautiful thing and can be fun. But as they start to get older, most parents try to instill certain morals and values in their kids that can go with them through life to help build character. But raising kids is definitely a challenge. You got the rebellious years, where a child might just buck the whole system and feel as though they will do whatever they want and don't need any advice from you as the adult. And that's coming from someone you brought in this world, clothed, fed. So by this point, some parents just give up. But some keep pushing the structure and discipline, which even though a teenager might not want to hear, it is needed for their life. On the flip side to this is being a step parent. When a man or a woman meets someone already with kids and steps up to take on that role of father or mother figure, now it really gets tricky. Depending on at what point of that child's life you come into the picture. Some kids respect this as the person they parent decided to be with, but some feel like that's not my biological parent, so they shouldn't tell me anything, or the relationship is just not there, and that could cause real issues and sometimes even be deadly. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we will be discussing the case of a young man who allegedly admitted to a hit on his stepfather, but before he got his time, he was also found gone in a jail cell. According to sources, back in 2021, a young man named Cortez Johnson was just 20 years old and trying to navigate life in Baltimore. The young man had a stepfather, 38-year-old Ivan Green. Most say Ivan was a great father to his 3 own kids and a good stepfather to his stepkids. But that's where the line blurs between him and Cortez. Somewhere in the mix, things got shaky, and the young man made a decision that would shake up the lives of everyone around him. On April 17th, 2021, BPD received a call from a young man who stated he just hit someone and that he was on the MTA and left the location. Police, not knowing if the call was real or not, tracked down the bus, They ended up on the 200 block of North Hilton Street. And after telling the driver to stop, BPD approached the bus. A young man walked towards officers with his arms out in front of him with a calm demeanor and stated, "Cuff me." Y'all already know. The man was placed under arrest, but he advised police to go retrieve the victim's body. And about 8 o'clock p.m., they responded to a house in the 1900 block of Bradish Avenue. Once they entered the home, they found the man laying in the kitchen, unresponsive, with a gunshot wound. Paramedics would come, but it would be too late. The man was pronounced gone at the scene. He was later identified as 38-year-old Ivan Green and Cortez's stepfather. Back at the station, Cortez cooperated and waived his Miranda rights. During questioning, he admitted to shooting his stepfather for reasons unknown, but the confession was enough to charge him with first-degree murder and handgun violations. He was transferred to Central Bookings to await trial. As time went on, Cortez never denied the situation at all, so the case seemed to be pretty open and shut. His defense attorneys tried to work with the state to get him the best deal possible under the circumstances. The deal was Cortez was to plead guilty to avoid a life sentence and cop out to 50 years in prison on murder charges and handgun violations. After him and his attorney decided to opt out of a jury trial, the talks were in motion if the state would accept the plea or not, and the young man was set to go back to court on November 21st of this year, but he would never make it. We all know, no matter what jail you are at, certain things take place, from violence, politics, to people trying to get things in the facility to make a couple dollars or just escape the messed up reality. They are locked up. And at Central Bookings in Baltimore City is no different from anywhere else. Cortez, now 21 years old, was going to be transferred from the jail in just a few weeks after his plea was accepted by the state. He was just waiting to go for sentencing. But earlier this month, according to the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, at about 7 o'clock in the morning, Cortez was found unresponsive in his jail cell. As COs tried to check on the young man, medics were eventually called to the cell, where they tried to resuscitate the young man, but their efforts failed. And at just 21 years old, he was pronounced gone. The jail started an investigation and saw it wasn't no sign of trauma or foul play, allegedly. The next day, 3 more inmates suffered from overdoses, so the jail assumed some bad product got through and they ruled Cortez an overdose as well. At this time, other inmates had also lost their life at the jail this year. Rest in peace to Ivan and Cortez. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to both families. I don't know what they beef was about or why Cortez felt like he had to do what he had to do. The young man never stated that. And as far as the jail ruling his death an overdose, well, we all know how that goes. But if that is the case, more of this story, for every action is a reaction and chain of events. I'm sure if Cortez could have rewinded time and not pulled that trigger, he would have, because that decision eventually led to him losing his life as well. If he was still in the streets or just got away from his stepfather because he was 20 years old, he could have went out on his own, they would both still be living. That's the messed up thing about emotional decisions. They can change the course of everybody's life in a blink of an eye. But hey, that's the Baltimore way. Man, it's a crazy story, man. I send my prayers and condolences to Ivan's family and Cortez's family. You know, at the end of the day, Shorty was 20 years old. And the way they trying to say he did the situation, you feel me? He say he did it. He called police. You know, he ain't denied. It's like, I don't know what transpired to make him just be like, okay, I'm going to do this and turn myself in. So it might be a lot deeper than we can ever imagine. He never stated why he did it. He just said he did it. Now they trying to say Shorty OD'd. They trying to say a bad batch got into Central Bookings. They saying like 4 people OD'd, but Shorty passed away. I think the other 3 straight. A man was found in his cell earlier this year. They trying to say that somebody did something to him, you know, he also passed away. But y'all know how it be in them jails, man. When you get locked up, you know, anything goes. You ain't safe. Them COs trying to make it home, they not worrying about what's going on in that, man. That's just the culture. It is what it is at that point. You feel me? But yeah, I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. Leave it in the comments. Remember to be respectful. This your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.